This is from Winston capital. I'm here with my friend Victoria, and she comes from Siberia. And as we discussed, we have the Soccer World Cup happening in Russia starting in the month of June. And I thought, what better than talk with a friend that comes from that beautiful land about what you can do other than soccer. For those who know me, you know that I'm not a big soccer fan, but I'm a big Russia fan. I've been there many, many times. And I always be a big admirer of their culture, their literature, their arts, their sciences. And I thought, what better to have a friend so we can talk about what else you can do when you are in beautiful Mother Russia. So as we know, the Russian World Cup will do 11 cities, which is kind of unheard of. Usually there are way less, but also Russia is the largest country in the world, so they can afford to have many large cities to entertain. I'm just going to name them. We're not going to go over all of them, but we're going to talk about some of the biggest cities on what can you do when you're not watching the game. So obviously Moscow and St. Petersburg, the two large cities, are there. Sochi, when we had the Winter Games a few years back. Ekaterinburg, which is basically the entrance to Siberia, as many people would say. Saransk, Rostov-on-Don, which, if my memory is not wrong, used to be Stalingrad in the old days. Kazan, Kaliningrad on the Baltic side. Nizhny Novgorod, a very famous city. Samara and Volgograd. These are the 11 cities that we will do it. Victoria has been in the States for 11 years. She now lives in Miami, and she is a dear friend. So probably, Victoria, why don't we start with Moscow? Or we're going to do a little bit of what to do in the cities, the food, the Russian culture, and what else you want to do on the free time, maybe some discos or some restaurants, on what fun things to do, to shop. And as most of you know, Russian women are very beautiful. This is a great example of that. And also, maybe you might be interested in dating some Russian women. Who knows? So let's start with Moscow, right? Big city. Yeah. What will you do in your free time? What's the first thing you would do as you get to Moscow?
So you definitely should see Red Square.
Okay.
It's very famous. You don't have to spend a long time there. Just walk around. It's going to be a few things that are very close to Red Square that's going to be very convenient for you.
Okay.
So Red Square, then there's a St. Basil's Cathedral.
Right.
Very old church. I mean, it's beautiful. Then it's a shopping center, GUM. Very famous one.
Super luxury, by the way. Not even luxury, super luxury.
It's not always just for shopping in GUM.
Right.
It's also interior and decor inside the store, and it changes every season. So it's nice just to walk around. You don't have to spend a lot of money. They have a little cafes, a little shops.
Great food places.
Totally.
Right.
So
especially the smoked fish, some caviar.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Okay. Good.
Then there is Alexander Garden right outside of Red Square, and good to take just a walk to enjoy the outside. It should be very nice weather. Take an ice cream or coffee. Go enjoy it. There's a bunch of fountains. There's always something going on. Music festivals. A lot of things for people to do.
I'm going to interject a few comments. If you want to read, I would recommend two things. The biography of the Romanovs by Montefiore, 300 years of the history. If you're going to see the Kremlin, you can see with the Tsars, although they moved to St. Petersburg later on, but that's what Russia was ruled for ages and still ruled today. You go to Moscow and you can see that it's still an imperial city with that power of the empire, and you'll see the Kremlin. And also, there's a very famous hotel in one of the corners, and you can read a very good book that came 2 years ago, A Gentleman in Moscow, which is kind of a tragic comic book. It's a great novel, probably to take it when you go to Moscow and have fun. So where will you go? Okay, so you do that. We have the Pushkin Museum, which is very, very famous, great collection of Impressionist art. And then you have the theater, which is the Bolshoi. Okay, which is nearby as well. So you have theater. Usually you can get tickets if you want to go from the States. I did that when I went to St. Petersburg. You can buy them here ahead of time, so you know what you can do ballet. They do ballet and opera at the same time sometimes. You can do both, and also being in June, it's going to be, but midnight is going to be full day, right? Still, the nights are going to be very bright.
It's going to be in St. Pete, not in Moscow.
Not in Moscow so much. Okay, St. Pete is more. Okay, what will you do at night in Moscow? Places to go, or what's nightlife like in Moscow these days?
A lot of clubs, a lot of restaurants open late. There's a Gorky Park in Moscow.
Okay, famous. All right.
So it's huge. I mean, it's very big. There's going to be a lot of outdoor activities, and I'm sure there's going to be some concert outside. They have an outdoor movie theater.
Okay.
So you can just take a blanket, some wine, cheese.
Okay.
And just have fun with your friends out there.
Sounds like a very good idea. What else can you do in Moscow? So you've got the museums, Red Square, any other things a little bit more outside?
It is. There's some former residence of emperors and the government uses and the president uses, but it's going to be like really outside. It's probably going to take you the whole day
to get there.
To get there, to walk around there, to see everything there. I mean, some tours. You're probably going to walk around, see the park. There's always some parks there, and go back. So it's going to take the whole day.
Okay,
so you should consider that. That is going to be the whole day.
Okay, but Moscow is a big city in itself, at the center, so you can do a lot of things there with the museums, the Kremlin.
Yeah, and you should check it out ahead because there's a lot of tours like for people who love food.
Okay.
They can take you to all the best restaurants. There's a lot of tours for people who like architecture.
Okay.
Or if you want to see subway, which we call metro, at night.
Very good. Famous.
Very,
very important. Yeah, the famous Moscow metro, right.
And you should definitely take a tour bus. I mean, it sounds funny and like very touristy.
But that's the best way to do any city in the world these days.
You don't know the city,
and you go around.
See as much as you can, and they just gonna show you everything. Like that's very important. You cannot always walk. Sometimes a little too far, but the bus is perfect. And I mean, it's gonna be in English, obviously. I'm pretty sure you can have it in Spanish too.
Sure, so it's gonna be probably every language because of the World Cup. So, since we're there, what is the typical Russian food, like American hamburger or Argentine steak? What is the good food that people would like to have on a good day?
It's a lot of soups in Russian food, but there's a good spot in Gum.
Okay.
It's called Stolove 57.
Okay, perfect.
Like in English, Cafeteria 57.
Okay.
And its theme is Soviet Union.
Okay.
So you would go and it's like taking you back
to the days
40, 50 years ago.
Okay.
And everything's in style of the Soviet Union, the posters on the wall, this and that. And the food is very typical. It's very simple Russian food. It's very cheap, but the lines just out the door.
Okay.
I mean, between Russian people and foreigners coming to visit, it just sells out fast, so everything is fresh. And I mean, it's something like a very cute little thing to try because it's like very Russian.
Okay, it's good in the soups, and then borscht, which is made with cabbage, right? Mm-hmm. And then they like a lot fish. Especially have a lot of very good river fish, freshwater fish.
Yes.
Right, sturgeon and other fish, which are, I remember, they're delicious. Okay, so now let's say we go from Russia, to Moscow to St. Petersburg, right? Do you take a train or do you fly? First of all.
Depends what you like. I mean, you can take a plane, or now there's a fast train that goes to St. Pete every night. So in the evening you get on the train in Moscow, and by morning you're at St. Pete.
Okay, so you can take the train. I've heard it's a good experience to do it. So you go to St. Petersburg, the old imperial city, obviously very famous Hermitage Museum, right? You can visit there. They have masterpiece collections of art, classical art, and now in the same square. If you go across, you don't see it, so you have to ask around. They have put the big Impressionist collection and all the modern collections in a different wing. It's not called the Hermitage, that's a different name, I forgot it. But if you go, must see. So then you walk also on, what's the main avenue in St. Petersburg? Nevsky Avenue. Nevsky Avenue. Great old architecture.
Yes.
Stores and shops,
cafes.
and you see the people. Also, I would say, walking by the river, the Neva, the Neva River. So it's beautiful to stroll around, to walk around the river. And then a friend of mine went to, if you are into that, there is, I think it's called the Artillery Museum, right? and it's a museum of artillery, and it's quite amazing because it goes from the 1600s all the way to World War II, and there was some nuclear rockets or whatever. So if you're into that, it's quite a production, as war museums are. Yeah? I've never seen anything like that. What else will you do in St. Petersburg?
You definitely need to take a canal tour. So it's over 800 bridges in St. Pete.
Okay.
And
Just sort of a Venice type, yeah, exactly.
So it's a big city, it's going to be a lot of traffic, and it's always nice on the river when everything's just relaxed. So it's going to be a nice thing to do, everyone does it. It's very popular among Russians too. Then, because it's going to be white nights, you're definitely going to need to take a night tour.
Okay. White night means that you will come out of the theater at 10 p.m. and it looks like a full day.
Yep.
Like in the middle of the day, right.
So,
Be careful because the restaurants do close late, but not that late. So don't get, the false illusion that because it's day, everything's going to be open because it's very dark. Okay, right.
a lot of things to do is outside of the city. If you have time, you definitely need to see Peterkov.
Okay, which is one of the palaces, right?
Yes.
Right, exactly.
A lot of fountains, a huge garden. There's tours inside of the palace too, but it happens like maybe twice or 3 times a day.
Okay.
So consider that. And you can take a boat there. You can take a bus, but it's going to be about 2 hours. The boat is much faster.
Perfect. What else will you do?
Food, a lot of good food.
Okay.
And it's it doesn't matter where you go. It's just a lot of different shops open, cafes. And sometimes you need to try not only Russian food, but something that most people consider to be Russian, like Georgian or Armenian.
Okay.
But still there.
Still there.
It is still some shopping, but I would just take strolls down Nevsky Prospect, take some tours.
The beauty, I think, Moscow is very big and it's a big city to move around. St. Pete is not so big, it's still very big, but it's beautiful to walk. You can walk hours and hours and hours through the channels and through the avenues and some little parks and big parks. There's an island that connects with the bridge.
Yeah.
So it's a very walkable city. Moscow is more difficult because it's huge. But St. Pete, you can, and it has beautiful old architecture, now with new architecture. So, and the other thing is looking at the Russian people is very interesting. They're very, as being a very big country, there is very different ethnic groups. You have, people that come from Siberia, people that come from almost the Far East, and then people that are more European looking. So it's a very good mix of cultures that you see walking around. One of the things I like it. So now, let's see. What's the next city you want to talk about? We don't want to talk about it, but I know you study in Kazan, or that's another big city.
So Kazan is a very interesting thing,
Okay.
and it's for me, I would definitely recommend to go there because it's going to be a bit different from what you're used to. So Kazan is the capital of Asian Republic, Tatarstan.
Okay.
And it's the only republic that has its own president.
Okay.
So people there are Muslim mostly, and they are Asian.
Okay.
So they have their own unique culture, their own cuisine, and a lot of food that you're going to see there, you're not going to try anywhere else in Russia. So in Kazan, they also have their own Kremlin, and right by Kremlin, you have a mosque, Kul Sharif Mosque. It's also a must-see, and it's very convenient. You go from Kremlin to Kul Sharif. Then right there, also in the same area, you have kind of like a sister Hermitage.
Okay.
And a lot of pieces from St. Pete are sent to Kazan, and you can go enjoy it there if you don't have time in St. Pete.
On St. Petersburg, we forgot to mention, you can visit with the Tsar's Arboretum. It's a big cathedral there, and that's also a good one. So you were talking about Kazan, and we're saying there is a Tatar theater, so you can see performance in that, and it's a Muslim country. So I had the pleasure to be in Kyrgyzstan, which is far away, similar. It's its own republic now, but it's kind of a Muslim Asian country. So it's very, very different that when you see in Moscow, and more so than we see in St. Petersburg. Remember, St. Petersburg is basically in the heart of Europe, Scandinavian Europe. Now we're talking countries that are very Asian in their customs and the looks and the things that they do. And let's talk about, I think we covered Kazan right there. And then we have Sochi, when you have the Olympic Games, the Winter Olympic Games. It's kind of a resort place, right? It's near the Black Sea, right?
Yes.
Does it have beaches too or no?
Yes.
Okay.
So for a long time, we would always go there only for the beach vacation in the summer.
Right.
And nothing really. But now with the Olympics and everything, they built a lot of new stuff.
Okay.
So you can go and see Olympic facilities in Adler. You can see Krasnaya Polyana mountains and waterfalls.
Right.
And it's better to take a car because it's not such a walkable city.
Okay.
And there's a lot of smaller towns around.
Okay.
Where a lot of like places to be. So it's easy to drive around.
Now, let me ask you a question. Russian women, what do they like in terms of, I know the flowers has to be odd numbers, never even. That's one detail. And do they like presents? How do you usually relate to men? You know, and you live in America, so you see American women. You live in Miami, you see Latina women. What will you see the Russian women is similar or different when it relates to men?
I guess we're more similar to Latin women.
Okay.
Because we're always like dress up, makeup.
Very much so.
Yeah.
They're dressed to the nines. They're impeccably dressed all the time. Yes, I observe that. Even on the street, high heels is not a problem all day long. Right.
That's right. So we prefer a lot of attention.
Right.
Even if we don't show, I mean, for
Okay.
Latin men, we could seem a little cold
Okay.
because we don't show emotions, and even if we're interested, sometimes you can tell just looking at our face.
Very important. Good to know. But as you know, say if you take someone out to dinner, and you know they always are super well dressed, super well put together. They like presents, I guess.
Of course.
Okay, all right. Well, American women are, you know, more not so Latina women do like presents. Okay. And what's the usual? What's, you know, looking out more into your parents or, you know, people that have been married. What's the typical, you know, man-women type relationship in general, or compared to America, or compared to the couples that you know that are Latins?
I don't know. There is some similarities. Like the man usually the head of the house, but at the same time, the wife makes him think so.
Right.
So
Good. Take note.
not really, but it's like she plays the role, and he like big guy, he's strong one. He tells everyone what to do, and she's like there. But I don't know. You just it's kind of like you become one thing. So he trying to do his part, and you trying to do your part, and it's always like attention to each other.
Good. I suspect more than one soccer fan will come not back alone to their home countries. That's my suspicion. That's good. Do they like fashion? Yes.
Oh,
They're
yes.
very fashion oriented. Very fashion oriented and very, very well dressed. Do they like jewelry?
Oh, of course.
Of course. All right. Good to know. All right. I think that's. Did I miss anything, Victoria? That you think?
No, I think you're pretty knowledgeable.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Well, listen. Thank you. This, you know, we recorded this, and we're trying to give you as much color as we can. If you're going to the soccer World Cup, obviously you can reach us, me privately, and we can discuss more into detail whether you want to read some books or do some things. We're going to put a list of good restaurants and some discos and some other things that to do, and as well, you know, some of the list of the museums and the, you know, the good sightseeing events that you can do in Russia. Hope you have fun. Victoria, thank you very much.
Thank you.